All right. Now let's move on to security. So we always get questions around security, and we found this with the other products, and we need to bring in the experts to do this. I mean, I certainly can't talk to it. Anthony probably can a little bit, but why not bring in the people that basically live and breathe this stuff? And just I'm going to introduce Rolf, but I jokingly call him the smartest guy in the room from a technology perspective, but this guy lives half of his life here in the office and the other half in the data center. So I don't know if he's actually, looking over our data every day, but you feel like it, right? So he's always on top of it. So Rolf, you got a lot to cover, and I know, this is important. So I'm gonna pass it over to you.
I had one question first, though.
Please. I've added a couple slides in, Rolf, and I think I might have put you on the spot, but we use these for the other products. So I thought it might be worthwhile just setting the scene on, there's different views of the world depending on the persona, the person that's actually having to manage this, right? So, you've spoken about this before, but I might hand it over to you, mate, and I'll run the slide deck if you like, or you can.
Yeah, perfect. So I think when we think about security, there's two different types. So there's obviously, I think there was a great question before about, MFA, do I have to redo that? So there's the accessing and getting into your environment. And then there is the whole hosting and how we do software development side. So I was going to kind of focus a little bit on that today because that can be a little bit of the unknown. And especially as we enter this new age of AI, security becomes, people are a bit nervous about that. What is actually accessing my data? Who is accessing it? What does all this AI do? So it's top of mind for everyone, and it's definitely top of mind for us. So we take security really, really seriously here, and it's really sits at the core of everything that we're doing. And we very much pride ourselves on having a security first approach to not just the software development side, but also the hosting side as well. And just to ensure that you, our customers, have absolute confidence that your data is safe and secure, as we're essentially the custodians of that. So really, this is a great slide, and I think we are super proud of this slide because it really demonstrates our commitment to security. So not only are we ISO 27001 certified, which is a very much a base standard for security and compliance across the industry, as well as doing SOC 2 compliance, which looks at the way that we actually host our applications. We've achieved ISO 24001. It's a bit of a mouthful. So what does it actually mean? So it's an independent verification for responsible management of AI. So this really validates that the Access Group has responsible development, deployment, and management of all of our AI systems, and it essentially establishes what we call an artificial intelligence management system. So it's the way we look at our data, look at the AI, how we integrate it into our products, how we use it for software development, and how we ensure that is governed in a safe and secure and highly confidential manner. So I think there's another great slide that kind of takes us through sort of 3 steps. So I thought I'd talk about, so how do we actually do it? So the first step is really all of your data is kept in a secure environment that is encrypted at transit and at rest. So that's really, really important. So only you can access your data. So we don't plug any AI tools or any other tools directly into your data or your environment. All of our monitoring that we do across all environments is done from a management layer, and it's actually segregated from the actual environments.
So even, Rolf, can I ask, and we've covered this before, even we don't tap into their data, do we? So it's really important that you guys, I mean, it's completely secure, even from us. We're not tapping into the usage of your AI and trying to do,
it's literally a black box. When we log into the management layer, we can see like a drive, if you like, a storage for each customer, but we have no idea what's in it. So we can see the size, which we need to know as we need to size up and size down as we manage the platform, but we have zero visibility into what is in those data stores, which is really, really important because that's the encryption at work. So it's fully encrypted and we don't have the keys to look at that.
Oh.
And then I think the second thing is really around the permission. So how do we do permissionings for things? And I think Sarah touched on this earlier through the admin portal. So you, as the customer, you manage all the permissions in Evo. So it's set by you, it's managed by you, and no one can use any of the AI or any of the components of that unless you have specifically given them access to do that. So again, that is very much managed by you. We can't even do that. So that is, again, managed by you and controlled by you. And then I think the final piece is, really that personal, private, what's happening to my prompts. So what you do in Evo is completely confidential. So your prompts are confidential. The data that you put through there is confidential. And everything that you do within the Evo environment is completely encrypted and secure. So to Stephen's earlier question, we can't see the data. We actually can't see what you're doing in that environment. And that's, again, really important because that demonstrates that encryption at work. And that should give you the confidence that whatever you're doing in that environment is completely secure and confidential. And I'll go back to, that the ISO 42001 certification that we got. I think that's why we want to drive that a little bit. So we're one of the first organizations in Australia to have been awarded.
100%. It's really important. I think that's, not to pat ourselves on the back, but to get that is, it takes a lot of work and a lot of commitment. And, also you have to show your work, right? So it's not a case of just saying, well, I ticked a few boxes. Right, it's tested, all that sort of stuff. So yeah,
it's completely independently verified. So third parties come in and they take us through the full ringer. And to Stephen's point, they test everything. We have to show them artifacts. They come and look at it, and then after a rigorous process, they then essentially sign it off. And we have to go through this every year. It's not a one and done. We have a surveillance every year.
Don't trust your words. It's like Rego, right?
Exactly. You can just imagine how much work it is when you start to layer up all the different certifications. This is like a completely
during the year, a bunch of petrols, spewing out of your car, but it's like that's all right. Doesn't matter. You did it once. I will say, and I again, sorry, we probably will repeat ourselves a few times just to make sure it's clear. But the permissions things is pretty important because what we're going to show in the down the track is that you can actually allow certain people within the business to be able to access certain things like these reports. So there's a management layer, and you say, look, here's a couple dashboards, or whatever, like as an example, and we're going to give you access to those. But it doesn't mean that everybody does, right? So, it's pretty important to be able to segment or segregate like that. So,
I was going to say, Rolf, compared to ChatGPT, without getting into too much detail, what's the real difference here?
So ChatGPT is a public service. We actually use a private service. So the large learning model that we use, or LLM as it's called, is actually hosted inside our environment that is only available inside the access perimeter. So it doesn't bleed data out. You can't go and ask it, what's the weather going to be on Saturday, because we don't connect that out. It's very much focused around you being able to interrogate your data, ask it questions, and use the add-ons. It's a private model.
Excellent question, Anthony.
Yeah.